Hello, this is Frantz Kantor, and I'm a cartoonist and an illustrator and a teacher and all that sort of stuff. And I'm at the Australian Cartoon Museum with the CEO of the museum, and his name is?
Jim Bridges.
Thank you. Anything you'd like to say about today's subject?
Yeah, I think I'll turn off my phone so we don't get any interruptions.
All right. I've done a little quick sketch. This is who we're looking at. I'll show you this actually first. Here we go. So E equals mc squared, and
What does that stand for?
E is energy, and mc is probably muck. So a lot of Scottish people, so probably square Scotsmen have energy. No, I don't know what the actual thing is.
I just think you've said something very original. I don't think anybody on the planet has ever said that before.
Well, why would you put MC? So, Master of Ceremonies.
Yeah.
Square Master of Ceremonies. Speed and mass. Yeah. Thank you. So,
Michael Collins.
yeah. Anyway, all right. Let's move on. So the subject is Albert Einstein. So Albert Einstein's a very interesting character. I've done a little quick sketch here. This is Albert Einstein, of course, in his heyday. What else? This is a nice colour. You mentioned the photographer.
Oh, that's Karsh of Ottawa.
Yeah. So he did
He's a famous
portrait of
Churchill, the bulldog one.
Yeah.
He did the one of Hemingway with the big roll neck jumper.
Yeah. So very nice modelling. You can see with the side light, the fill light, the main light, and there's also, I think, a reflected light coming back.
I think the negative for that picture is as big as this pad.
Yeah.
So they get all the pores, they get all everything, you know.
Large format photography. This is Albert in his
teenage days.
Well, not quite, but it was university day or early teaching days.
Yeah.
You could see he's like this folded collar from the late 19th century fashion. This is, of course, more of his thoughtful pose for the coming generation.
Praying
of
for
the
mankind.
1950s.
Praying for mankind in the post-nuclear world.
So he's very expressive face, and we're going to try and capture him in a caricature. I've already done some, just a quick thumbnail sketch, which I've transferred to the grey paper. So the grey paper is like just a Strathmore grey paper that it's 50% grey, I think, approximately. So kind of, tonally working with a brown pencil. And this is a Prismacolor terracotta. So it's a reddish brown color pencil. And why we're working in color pencil? Because we've got three colors to contend with: white and black, and the black is going to be quite nice. It's a polychromo. So Prismacolors and polychromos, they're all about $3 in the art shops, and they have a lot of pigment, and you can get quite a lot of good coverage with these, and they're waterproof so that you can work with watercolor if you like.
Do you know which country they're made in?
I believe Faber-Castell, who make these, are German. It's from Germany. Prismacolor, I'm not sure. They usually say the country of origin, but I would presume it's French. I would say. So all good things come from Germany and France in terms of art materials. Let's get into this. I've started to work out some ideas for shapes. So the concept of caricature is a method of simplification and exaggeration in equal proportions. Okay, so actually Einstein had something very important to say about simplicity. He said, he said, what's the secret to, he was asked, what's your secret? What's the secret to life? And he said, keep it simple, but not too simple. So, in other words, simplify the process as much as you can, but within that simplicity, within that simple premise, that's just really to get you over the first step of the problem. After that, you should employ a sense of fun, a sense of play, to investigate further and get a better result.
That's your philosophy, isn't it?
Yeah, so just have fun with the drawing. We can't use a blue pencil because it will kind of change the colour toning of this. So the brown pencil kind of gives you a warm, almost a flesh tone concept. I can't see what's a lot of detail inside of the shaded areas of the ear, but let's start with the face. I kind of like this, an area to focus on. They call this, I call this is the mask zone or the T-zone. Okay, so basically anything that falls within the center of the face, the features like the nose, the eyes and the mouth, are where you focus your attention. So all of the detail is going to be there. And when you exaggerate shape and proportions, like you're making the nose big, you do so with reference to the other elements. Okay, so you reference the eyes next to the nose, next to the mouth. So these things you make value judgments as to their importance and in a hierarchical fashion of what's the central focal point, and then sort of bring out other features of a hierarchical degree. So things that line up, right? Lines that create shapes have relationships to each other. The lines of or the horizontal lines, especially in a head that's tilted, right? These horizontal lines are at an angle. So you have to keep those things in reference. So the eyebrows have to be at an angle. The nose, the mustache, everything else has to be at an angle in reference to the eyes.
The perspective of the face.
Well, it's perspective, but it's perspective in a contained area. Because we're not actually drawing a horizon line and vanishing points. Yeah. Okay, so we're sort of containing our perspective knowledge within an area. Okay, so let's continue.
Most people would think that in a caricature you're not sort of locked into that sort of logic.
Of perspective.
Most people would think that. They'd think that you can push it and stick it anywhere.
Well, you have to think about what you're doing. Otherwise, a couple of things will happen. The first thing that you'll notice is you're not going to get a relevance in terms of the recognition of the character. Yeah, that's right. So you're going to lose the likeness if you don't watch yourself. You don't watch how these things refer to one another. Wrinkles, lines, muscles. The face is full of muscles, and these muscles link up. Right? So if you smile, there are lines that go down to your chin and upwards into your forehead. So if you're not aware of these shapes, these movements, these gestures in your face when you're drawing somebody, you'll be out of sync.
So you've obviously studied anatomy.
Yeah, I have. I've done anatomy in drawing classes and things, and in college. So it's a very it's a very deep subject. But the upshot of it is that it's up to you how you reference this information. So when I'm drawing eyes, for example, I'm thinking of structure. So you've got the eyeball, and then you've got the. Let's make sure we draw the eye on a. So you've got the eyelid, and these things, obviously bulge because the eyes bulge out of the sockets, and then everything else is in reference to that shape, that physical attribute, right? So you have to make an eye that looks like and feels like an eye.
Well,
and
a
all
ball,
of that
like
implies,
a ball.
right?
The eyeball, yeah.
Yeah, but that's pushing out.
Yep.
It's pushing out. So you can see the eyelids, both the top and the bottom eyelids, are being pushed out slightly. All right. So is that you have to think about that when you're drawing, and it's not like a shopping list. You don't go, step 1, step 2, step 3, do this. It is something organic. So you're actually doing that on the fly constantly in the drawing process. So it's almost like second nature. Like we were talking once about driving, muscle memory. How you think you don't remember how you got home, but you've passed obviously several intersections, and you didn't go through any red lights. So you've been driving non-compos mentis. No, you've been driving
unconsciously.
Well, semi-unconsciously. So certain repetitive tasks or certain tasks are, delegated to or relegated to a different part of the brain. And that's important to understand that. And that happens a lot with drawing, because the more you remember, the more you draw, the more you remember. The more you draw, the more you remember. I'll say it again. The more you draw, the more you remember. Because, drawing hundreds of eyes or hundreds of hands is in itself how you remember muscles, how you remember objects, how you remember. If you want to draw hands, you have to practice drawing hands. There's no tricks to drawing hands, right? Well, there are few little things, but mainly the drawing process is quite repetitive. It's like study the reference and draw in respect to the reference, what you see, analyze what you see, think about what you see, and rinse and repeat. Just keep doing that. I hate counting wrinkles. I'd rather do a sort of a freer construct of wrinkle shapes rather than actually counting them. That's good. Let's we'll finish this one before I was going to jump ahead, but I won't jump ahead. So what do you know about Albert Einstein?
Well, he's not he's obviously a famous person, but he's become a symbol.
Like Madonna, or not Madonna, Marilyn.
Well, yeah, but when people say you're an Einstein, they mean you're a genius, or you think you're a genius, but you're not. So his name has become synonymous with mad scientists and geniuses and the greatest minds in the world. He's become a symbol, hasn't he? And a love symbol too. This toy, for instance. This toy, for instance. He's not a superhero, but he is.
Yeah, it's a pop vinyl.
Yeah.
So pop vinyls. I like pop vinyls that are not about TV personalities or IP, like a Star Wars figurine or something.
He's famous. He's obviously famous because of his work as a physicist.
Yeah.
But I don't know any of that. I don't even understand what EMC, Square Scottish...
Square Scotsman.
Yeah, means. I've never been able to understand these things. But he's transcended all that. He's become... And he's used... he's in films and in literature. The dog in... What's his name? The dog is called Einstein in Back to the Future. Einstein on the Beach, I think it's an opera by Philip Glass. What's it performed? Is it the film? That film with Marilyn Monroe and him and McCarthy are all supposed to be in... It's not performance. What's that film by Nicholas Roeg?
I don't know.
The three of them are all in a hotel at once. And, the prettiest woman in the world, the smartest man, and the the dodgiest politician.
Right. That sounds like a joke.
Well, it's a film. It's a famous film. What's it called? I can't remember. Not Transcendent. It's not Performance.
Mm.
It's another film. Yeah. Oh well. Anyway, I mean, he's a symbol of intelligence, and a lot of his theories. Because when he came out with his theories, he's just another nutcase. But most of his theories have been proved, and even recently they keep on saying. I think. Forget what it was, but they've just said something in the last 6 months that some new information they've found out also backs up what... I mean, he was so ahead of his time, he sort of just dragged everybody, the thought process of what he had to say about, time and stuff, and so he's...
Time and space.
He's...
some great... complex lines in his face. This is, in his heyday, obviously.
And of course, the Americans loved him because, it's like Australians and New Zealand. If you're any good and you're a New Zealander, well, Australia embraces you. And because of the Nazis and the war, all these famous Jews went to America to hold out, But he's embraced as almost like the smartest American, and all these... I mean, it's not just kids going to college who have photographs of him on their T-shirts and stuff like that. There's busts of him in people's houses, like they have busts of Beethoven or Bach, So he's. But I mean, he's also had something to do with the atomic bomb, and also he was an anti. He was worried about the effects of it, so. And I mean, one of his heroes was Gandhi, and they used to swap letters and stuff. But he also had a sense of humour, and he liked his music. He's famous for his love of Mozart and playing his violin. Yeah, I like that you've made his moustache bigger than it really was.
Yeah,
That's
well, you
good.
look at
That's
features that
caricature,
impress
yeah,
you. So, you try to exaggerate things. Proportion is something in a caricature that invites you to change. So it invites you to change proportion because it really changes the emphasis of a narrative of face.
And the other thing is his face in particular, his hair's all over the place. So that's what a scientist is. Someone with his hair all over the place.
Yeah, well, it's made obvious by him because he is,
I think Time, I'm not sure if they made him Man of the Year, but there was an article written about him in Time magazine, and the article said that Einstein was a cartoonist's dream come true.
Because of the shapes.
Yeah, the shapes of his face, and he became, all scientists sort of had to sort of follow his mould,
Well, you could really do a caricature of him quite simply, with a few strokes. And it would symbolise Einstein.
Yeah, so there's all sorts
of
really weird things have happened. Like, for instance, they turned his handwriting into a font.
Okay.
So you can type up your stuff, and it's in his handwriting. Things like that. And when he died, they gave him an autopsy and wanted to see if his brain was bigger than normal and all that sort of stuff. But what they found was his... you see, if you're left-handed, the right side of your brain dominates, and if you're right-handed, the left side of your brain dominates. But in him, it was... and that's another thing. Apparently he wrote in his right hand, but there's all this big controversy about whether he's left-handed or right-handed, which actually was going on for a while, and that's one of the reasons why they... That's part of the autopsy process. But they found out his brain was... It showed symmetry, so between both sides. One didn't dominate the other one, which is very unusual,
Yeah, but it also makes sense. I just want to say that the whole right brain, left brain thing, is probably... People think of drawing on the right side of the brain, the Betty Edwards book that speaks about left and right brain thinking, an analytical versus a more abstract form of thinking. is the way to go for drawing. So it's not sort of like analysis. You've got to really shortcut your brain waves or your thought patterns in order to create something or get better in drawing.
Well,
It's
some
still
people-
very controversial.
Yeah, some people challenge that. Yeah, that's right. And someone said her book should be called Drawing Upside Down, because that's one of the exercises she does.
Well, it's called the Upside Down Picasso.
Yeah.
Because you have to, the challenge is, we might do this one day, the challenge is to draw Picasso upside down, and that's literally the challenge. So the reason for that is we tend to simplify the drawing process a little bit too much, and that means that your brain shortcuts or finds shortcuts for processes of analysis, like the shape of eyes, the shape of the head, all of these things which we can create symbols to communicate
That's
with
innate
faster.
in us. That's innate in us. We all tend to simplify these things. Yeah.
What-
I mean, a cartoonist just does it more effectively than anybody else. It's innate into us
Yeah,
to simplify.
it's because we're visual
Yeah,
animals,
yeah.
and we communicate visually. It saves our lives. So the ability to understand danger signals or symbols or something, is very, very important to staying alive in many respects in society. So it's based on a shared visual language. So visual language is something based on a common, like a lingua franca of concepts, visual concepts. So and that could be as simple as smiling. So smiling, creating a happy. This is a universal concept. Okay, so we call this an emoji, but it came from the 1960s, which is it actually meant have a nice day. So
You've seen Forrest Gump.
yeah, so that's what it actually meant. But it's a visual symbol.
Yeah.
But the brain actually looks at that and recognizes this as a human face.
Yeah.
So that recognition, that ability to be able to create symbols, which is in all of us, is actually what the brain was trying to do to shortcut the method of drawing. So there's a battle going on. And Betty Edwards said this battle was like a battle between the left and the right hemispheres of the brain. Okay? I'm not convinced. There's a lot of thought that that's not actually happening, but there is some form of conflict going on in the process, and I think it's to do with the way that the brain works in terms of understanding truth, understanding meaning with visuals, and also being able to reproduce those visuals accurately. So there's an accuracy model that's swimming around in your grey matter, right? That's saying this is not a face, this is a face, because this communicates face. But we're not trying to communicate face. We're trying to communicate something deeper than the symbol of a face. We're trying to communicate.
The book is what, 30 years old? 40 years old?
Yeah.
And I mean, they know a hell of a lot more about the brain, and the brain's a lot more complicated than. And I mean, it's a bit simplistic, not so much then, but now, just to think that it's the right versus the left. The creative is on the other side and all that sort of stuff. I mean, it's sort of true, but I mean, the point is, if you damage one part of your brain, other parts of the brain take over that job as well. So it's not that,
It can be.
It can be. It's very complicated, incredibly complicated, the brain,
Well,
anyway, so he's become the symbol of the brain. Einstein,
Brainiac.
That's right, Brainiac.
Smarty puss.
Yeah. Yeah, and he became that famous that he realised that people wanted to, sell his face, use him.
Oh, he knew that.
Yeah, so he organised all that money, all that licensing to go to a university. He helped set up, the Hebrew Uni of Jerusalem, yeah.
Is this the same university that ended up with his brain?
I don't know.
So presumably he left his brain to science and someone took it out of his head and put it in a jar. And that was it. And all they do really is measure it. It's not something... You look at a brain is a brain is a brain. It's just...
Like a rose is a rose is a rose.
Yeah, it's by any other grey matter, it would still stink like a brain.
Mate. It's Einstein's brain.
Yeah, but that's just Einstein's brain. You could do the same with, President Lincoln's brain or, God forbid, Hitler's brain. But the brain itself is just an organ. What goes on in the brain is the weird thing, and that's you can't. It's something you can't really study, because as soon as the brain is out of the head,
that's it.
The brain is just a thing.
Going out of my head.
Yeah. So
anyway, he licensed.
My apologies.
He organised the licensing so that all the money went to. He obviously set up committees, so you didn't have, Einstein condoms and all that sort of stuff,
I love the idea of Futurama, where you got all these famous people's heads in jars. I think you get there's a story of Disney. His head.
It's not true. All that
no.
What do they call that stuff? Chiropronic. What are they called?
Cryogenics.
Cryogenics. Yeah. It's not true.
No, it's a lie spread by
it's a lie.
Patty Freeling.
By who?
Another cartoon company.
Oh, okay.
A rival cartoon company.
Yeah, so he's in video games, movies, books, plays, operas, paintings, TV. He's just.
Well, Edgar Allan Poe is also, and Shakespeare is another one. There's a lot of...
they're heroes because they're heroes.
They're kind of full of quotes and memes and things to do with, thinking and logic and stuff.
Well, coming up with answers...
And more of a philosophical...
Coming up with answers that no one knows the answers.
Well, beating the... just creating something, thinking of something that no one's ever thought of before.
He actually hasn't got that many worry lines. They're deep, but he hasn't got that many.
Well, you call them worry lines, but they're real lines that are created from activity. So the activity in the head is thinking. It's not so much worry lines.
Yeah.
There are lines that form as a generic.
Women call them worry lines. Women call them worry lines.
Yeah, but they're not really worry lines
as
such.
Okay.
They're just lines.
Well, what are they called in anatomy?
In anatomy?
Yeah.
Wrinkles.
Just wrinkles. What, forehead wrinkles. Yeah, and the FBI opened up a file of him in the early 30s.
In the 30s, because he was...
30s, good old America.
They thought he was a communist sympathiser.
Obviously. Yeah, anybody who's smart, then they are. You've got to watch them.
Yeah.
And by the time he died, it was 1,427 pages long.
The file.
Yeah.
Someone counted them.
Of course. Someone in the FBI does that,
It's good to see your taxes being spent for a valuable resource, like counting pages for...
And also he's a great humanist.
Yeah.
He's, like for instance, Dr. Schweitzer was a so-called...
Albert Schweitzer?
Yeah, Albert. He was a great humanist too, But he wouldn't sit down and have meals with black people.
Oh,
He'd save their lives and spend his life saving their lives, but he wouldn't sit down and have a meal with them because you didn't do things like that. But I don't think...
because of the convention at the time?
Yeah, but I don't think there's any stories like that with Albert. He's an approachable, avuncular person, isn't he? He's Yeah,
Explain what a avuncular is.
well,
perhaps, and
like a
better.
friendly adult, like an uncle, like an uncle, and there's not too many
Uncles.
stories about him that sort of there's not too much scandal about him.
Yeah, well, kind of, but it was like there's a lot of stuff in his recent biopic that.
Yeah, well, they were talking about his first wife came up with a lot of the ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we all know that behind every great man there's a greater woman, don't we, Frantz?
Uh-huh. So this is great. There's some great lines here. When you're drawing a face that's instantly recognizable like that, you arrive at a destination which is the recognition of the character quite early, and then it's garnished.
Then it's playtime. Then it's playtime, is it?
Well, it's always playtime.
No, but when you nail the
you put the play in Plato. So sorry. So
I don't think Plato was a playful type. Something tells me.
You don't know the Plato I know.
Ah, okay.
We'll have to draw Plato.
Wasn't he in Rebel Without a Cause, Plato? The Salminio character is called Plato.
Yeah. So like you arrive at a reference, you arrive at a recognition quite early, right? So the rest of the time is spent adding more relevance.
I noticed that I've seen all your drawings you've done in the last series, and it looks like you've given him the biggest eyes of anybody so far.
Well, his eyes are very expressive, so it's a relevant thing to think about when you're drawing. And of course it helps having good clear reference, of course, to be able to read elements in there and really pay attention to the proportions that you're changing, but keep them in a relevant dialogue happening between each of the subjects, between each of the things. So the nose, the eyes, and the mouth. Just sort of keep that in mind when you're drawing it. So you're not thinking of things too long in isolation. You're obviously focusing on isolated elements here and there, but mainly keep looking at how you're making the light and dark work to create a sense of three-dimensional properties. Let's put some tone back into just with some cross-hatching.
There's a series of books that use cartoons to explain complicated things. It came out. They're always been in print because they're popular with students. And the one on Einstein, I remember buying, and they try and explain how his theory of relativity works. And because he worked it out on a tram, I think he caught a tram every day going to work or something. Anyway, I could never understand it even in comic form. And it's been done in comic form dozens of times apparently by different people.
Well, he had a theory of time that came to him in a lift.
Yeah.
So, these are things that look. There's a little bit of in the solving of problems. There's a lot of the creative energy. So that's why creativity is really an exciting proposal.
So he didn't wait around for an apple to fall on his head.
No, but even that process is something that is created from the sudden realization, which is kind of like I guess a creative spark in a way. It can come to you anywhere. So it's using creativity to bounce to create a spark of insight. And that's a really important thing to remember, because creativity is something that we don't share with any other animal. We don't share this with machines even. with robots, with computers. We don't share
let's
it.
not get carried away because
Computers are not creative.
No, but the monkey sticks the
monkey sticks.
he sticks the straw down the anthole and picks it up and then licks them off. And
Well, he's probably looking at the way
the
birds
crow,
do that.
The crow, they've got proof that they're creative. They solve problems, especially if there's food involved.
Yeah, well, food does not really give an
No, but
an
they're not trained.
existential
They're not
understanding.
trained. They come up with their own ways of doing things. So
No, I think it's just
there is creativity in animals. I think it's not as
well, maybe.
they don't. I mean, they've just realised that they've got a conscience. Animals have conscience. I mean,
Conscience.
conscious, and they're conscious of things.
Oh, you mean conscious?
Yeah, they're conscious of things.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody has a dog knows that they dream.
Mm.
When the dogs are, their feet are running and they're carrying on.
Yeah, but they're not really. They're not known for being self-aware, are they?
That's a great moustache.
Mm.
It's nearly like Ayers Rock, isn't it? It's a ripper.
Yeah. So it's a landmark. All of these big
I
features
said
are
Ayers
landmarks.
Rock. Oh, Uluru, sorry. Uluru. Get in trouble.
So all of these are landmarks that you sort of see and relate to as recognisable. So it's important to sort of remember them when you're working.
Well, as I said, there's not too many scandals around him. So he's like no one's squeaky clean, but
No, I don't think anyone is squeaky clean, but if you squeak, then
you're clean.
yeah, I think it's.
Well,
if you squeak, then it's your own
it's,
fault.
It's just that we, I don't know, we put people up on pedestals, and people, it's, and you cause this imbalance straight away.
Well, our sports stars are definitely, on pedestals, and they always suffer from that
because
idolisation because they can't live up to that pressure.
Very few people can.
Mm.
But we still want our heroes. We still want to make up our heroes, whether they're celebrities or scientists.
I think he's a good hero to have. I think.
I think that's what I'm saying. Compared to most heroes, he doesn't have.
Yeah.
He's. It's just that you can sit down and read Shakespeare and these things like that, but it's I wonder what percentage of the population understand any of his theories. It's only specialist
Of
people.
Shakespeare's theories?
No, of this guy.
Oh, okay. I don't know if it's important to understand, equations and that. That just, because you don't use it at all.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the implications of his theories, not the actual working out.
Yeah, but we enjoy that, don't we?
Yeah.
We sort of look at the space race or, theories put into practice from industry and things, and
so who do
looking
you
at
see,
technology.
there's no. He's the most famous scientist in the world, isn't he?
Yeah. Scientist, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's some great minds and great thinkers,
Yeah.
In medicine and science. So he's definitely, numero uno, probably. It makes sense to have a Einstein Prize more than a Nobel Prize, probably.
Mm.
I don't know.
Well, that's to do with his guilt. He made that much money killing people.
Who Nobel?
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to articulate.
It's a bit hard to think of anybody who comes near him, or similar to him, isn't it? Really. I mean, the bloke you drew yesterday.
Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Mm.
Probably the closest because of his anti. Oh well, they were contemporaries, and they're although most of his major work, Einstein's work, was done in the 20s and 30s, but He does stand out, doesn't he? He stands out for lots of reasons.
Yeah.
Not just because of his, I mean, for instance, musicians love him because he said on lots of occasions how music was important to his work. He didn't explain it, but,
So has anyone tried to put E equals MC squared to a beat? Just some dubstep or something, or I don't know.
The Einstein beat. I can feel a song coming on, can't you?
Well, I mean,
a rap song coming on. EMC.
Wasn't there a musical about him?
Oh, probably, for sure. Yeah.
So
why did you pick him? Why did you pick him?
Well, partly because of his fame, but also the fact that he has a story in his face that
got a
that you
great
can
head.
tell
Great
quite
head.
well, quite easily, I think. And it's a very human side because his expressions are quite they're quite open to interpretation, and I think in many respects you get what you see in this face. It's a face that doesn't hide a lot of the truths, a lot of the emotions and things. It's kind of read there in the roadmaps of these lines.
The roadmaps.
Yeah, the features, the landforms that you see.
The roadmaps of my mind.
So it's kind of an interesting thing to think about. So I'm building up a little bit of contrast here with the white pencil, so creating a dramatic element with the light. So I'm looking at where the light forms in terms of describing where the light falls, in terms of describing a three-dimensional form. Okay, so that's the thing that I'm concerned with here. Also, the white pencil can, at a pinch, describe the texture of skin, certainly shiny aspects. I'll show you this very quickly. So I'll put like a leading edge highlight on these wrinkles so that they're lit from below a little bit, and that gives you a more sort of a leathery approach to the skin, right? Which, I mean, leather is skin, let's face it. But it gives you a dramatic.
Let's face it.
It just looks like skin. I'm making it look more like skin. So I'm doing this with a kind of an understanding of shine and the feeling of shine, and thinking about the implications of these lines that I'm drawing. So what do they actually say about form? What do they actually say about texture? Is it a shiny texture? Is it a smooth texture? Is it a rough texture? All of these things you are thinking about while you draw. So, the drawing process itself is quite internal as well as external. So there's a lot of stuff going on. I can't get the exact direction of some of these lines in the face because they're quite...
The shadow.
Well, just these tiny little cross lines of spidery details. There's quite a lot of them. I'm trying to do my best, but I don't want to be here... I don't want to be here drawing all day.
All day and all of the night.
So this is, quite a fun face to do, and look how fun this hair is. I mean, I'm just drawing in some of the highlights. He's got a beautiful mane of hair like a lion, and you can show shine quite well, quite easily, with a few strokes of the white pencil. So, the white pencil creates a sense of drama, right? So you don't want to go over everything, but just enough to show that there's shiny aspects to the hair, that the texture that you're trying to create has shine, has smoothness, catches more light than other elements.
Can we just move this slot so it's centre, just over? There we go. Good. Whoops, sorry, wrong way.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's now central. Yeah, because you were cutting off the ear.
So, okay. So there's a lot of little hairs in the mustache which go in all kinds of directions. So that kind of gives you more of a random, bushy.
I can't
approach,
imagine him combing it every morning. Can you?
Well, it probably would be, but I don't think it would be very, very responsive. So this is a way of build up.
I'm thinking of all the caricatures I've seen of him in the past in my head while you're drawing this, and yours is very humane.
Very humane.
Well, it's humanistic.
Human?
It's very, very, very humanistic. You're not pushing the superior intellect or anything like that a lot of these things do.
Right.
These pictures do.
Okay. Well, I
he's
find him
obviously
very
a wise
interesting.
man. I mean, anybody looks at that picture would know he's a wise man.
Yeah, I find him very interesting. He's a fascinating subject for sure. How great is this pen? It's at, what is this? At 0.7, 0.7. Huh. It's the thickness of hair, seemingly.
It's a perfect pen to use.
Yeah. So I'm actually drawing
But I have a feeling
wayward hairs here.
Do you know anything about hair? Like, is the moustache thicker than your hair on your head? Because it always seems to me thicker. But I've never measured it. They don't teach you
not
that.
having a moustache, I don't really know.
You don't have a moustache?
No, I don't know the answer to that question.
No, but they don't teach you things like that in
barber school. You go to barber school and
no, when they're teaching you about anatomy.
That's a bit of a specific thing. Just putting his blemishes and moles back in. Yeah. So I don't know. Things that are you look for ways to explain textures, and just sort of building up an edge here on this side of the head. So I don't want to put too much work into the hair outside. Might be helpful with a thicker pen for that.
Well, you're definitely going to do a black background, aren't you?
I don't know. Probably. I think because he has white hair, I think a darker background would be
you bring it up.
Would be better. I don't want to go berserk with the highlights. Just a little bit here and there, just to create a sense of shine where I want it. Would be good. It's got this
you've
lovely,
got four components. You've got the colour of the paper. You've got and the three different pens.
Yeah.
Which are three different colours. So you've got four colours, really, haven't you? Not just three colours. You've got the colour of the paper.
Well, the paper could be. I just put a slight little reflective light coming in on that side.
I've seen some of your work. You've used brown paper too.
Yeah, you can use any kind of neutral paper. You can use coloured paper if you want to. Problem with coloured paper is it fights the colours that you're trying to establish with the pencils. Like if this was purple, this paper was purple, then thank you. Then have a look at that pencil. That's stubbies. So it would be a different matter. You'd have purple as a general tone underneath everything, and it would be difficult to establish any other kind of colour easily. I mean, you could use opaque okay, you can use Posca markers or something like that, paint pens. But, generally it's going to be very monochromatic in terms of colouring. This is more of a neutral colour with the background, but it can give you a nice warmth with the skin tones, which is what I'm trying to get, I think, with this caricature. That's all it is. It's just a tonal drawing. So rather than starting with a sketch on white paper and then gradually building up the halftone, building up form, the paper is actually working to help you create a quicker response to form, and it just makes the drawing process a little bit easier.
Especially for the skin.
You don't have to work so hard to create form, to create
You'll have
skin
to do
tones.
you'll have to do a black paper drawing with white inks one day.
Yeah, well, that's really, drawing light is, I think that exercise tackles quite well.
Light, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you did it. Didn't you do it once? Drawing of a lion in black paper with just white.
I often do that.
That was a great picture. That was a really. It's sort of those sort of pictures make you understand light.
Well, you're only drawing light.
I know.
So
That's what I'm saying.
Everything that's shadow is black paper.
Yeah.
So it's the opposite of working on with a pen, like on white paper, where you're drawing shadows with a pencil, with a black pencil or black pen. With black paper and a white pencil, you're just creating the light. So it's a different experience. But here, you're kind of using little bits of the concept of painting light and painting shadows as well. So it's sort of a double bonus for. You have to push the ink down the barrel of this thing. Fortunately, it doesn't. Gravity. Gravity's something that you have to be an Einstein to understand. So, yeah.
You don't have enough gravitas in your life.
Yeah. So, this is quite good, this paper, the ink, and this particular ink, I think it's a Zig brush pen. It tends not to go through the page.
And thank God it doesn't blot. If you did that with a dip pen, you'd have ink everywhere, wouldn't you?
When I was working for the paper, I had lots of problems because it would pool, and in the pool it would go shiny.
Yeah.
Which was frustrating to the max. So incredibly frustrating to have this problem happening with an illustration, which you really couldn't change, because it's after it's done, that's it. You just have to give a warning to the photographer.
But he'd have a shine filter, wouldn't he? It would be stored next to his Doris Day filter or something like that. So no age blotches on his head?
I couldn't detect any, and I don't think it's... we could just add things, if you wish. Depends on how you want to sort of tackle skin, in that sort of thing. The details of skin. So, this is Albert Einstein. This is the before. I'll show you the before. There's the before. There's the after. And this is Frantz Kantor and...
Jim Bridges.
And we're saying, what do we usually say? This is Albert.
Yeah.
You're going to say Albert.
He's not fat, is he? No.
No, he's got a big head. See how big head?
Would have got big heads, than he, Dad?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. This is, we're saying we'll see you on the flip side.
See you on the flip side.
Yeah.
Okay. What's on the flip side?
We'll
Another
see,
opportunity.
We'll see you in court and you'll win, all right?
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.